Have you ever wondered where the expensive king crab on the luxury banquet table comes from? Behind every crab is a battle for survival where people challenge the fierce sea, howling winds, screaming waves, and biting cold just to pull up cages laden with hope. In this video, you will witness the most extreme journey of hunting for the king crab on the planet, from the bottom of the sea to the kitchen of the restaurant. And I bet, after watching this, you will never look at king crab the same way again. After hours of drifting in the rough sea, the traps finally began to be pulled up. Each time the cages rose above the water, hearts pounded. No one knew for sure what was inside, only hoping it was a big catch. And then, that hope was broken. Hundreds of king crabs raced out, trampling over each other like a living, red waterfall, each with giant claws and thorny shells, the result of hours of tension in the cold sea. As the cage slowly rose from the icy water, everyone held their breath. The heavier the cage, the higher the hopes. Inside, the long, wriggling legs began to move. Another catch of king crabs had been caught. Without hesitation, the team quickly brought the cages back to the deck. The mass of king crabs poured down like a shower of crustaceans. The clanking sound of the crab shells echoed amidst the roaring waves and howling wind like the typical music of the sea. Immediately after the crabs were loaded into the hold, the sorting work began immediately. Amid the biting cold and slippery deck, they diligently selected each crab that met the standards: big, strong, and of the right weight, ready to go to the lavish banquet tables. From the harsh cold seas, king crabs travel thousands of nautical miles to this place, a high-class restaurant, where every movement is still full of life. The cooking process begins immediately. With skillful hands and a sharp knife, the chef opens the thick crab carapace, revealing the pure white meat and the characteristic orange roe, the essence that gourmets always hunt for. The shiny orange crab roe is the most expensive essence of every king crab. Soft, fatty, fragrant, it is not just an ingredient, it is what makes the whole world willing to pay hundreds of dollars just to enjoy it once. And here it is, the king crab's ultimate weapon: claw, longer than an adult's forearm, with a thick, towering shell, and inside is a layer of white, firm meat, with a rich ocean flavor. Each claw is meticulously cleaned. Every corner is carefully checked to ensure hygiene and preserve the freshness. This is not just a preliminary stage, but a ritual before treasure enters the fire. Amidst the stormy voyages, there are also calmer moments like this one. The signal from the bright orange buoy tells us it's time to collect the next trap. Unlike the usual square trap, this is a specialized round trap, lighter, more flexible, but still highly effective. The experienced sailor is gently manipulating, accurately bringing the cage back to the ship. Night falls, but the work does not stop. The glowing buoys are the meeting point between people and the deep sea, where the secrets of each crab catch are hidden under the cold ocean floor. The cage is slowly pulled up, heavy with seawater and hope. In the cold white light of the night, the fishermen's hands are still agile, as if they are silently conversing with the sea. And then, the cage was opened. Dozens of king crabs crawled out, clinging to each other as if trying to cling to the deep bottom. Those lively movements, in the dark of night, made everyone who witnessed them speechless. This was the moment of the profession, of the sea, and of the true value behind each crab. In the cold night, the cage slowly rose from the bottom, the crab legs moving up and down in the reflected light. Even though I had witnessed it hundreds of times, each time the cage was pulled up, my heart still skipped a beat. Are there any crabs? How many? Are there any king crabs? And then the fateful opening of the cage. Dozens of king crabs poured out, like a red-brown waterfall. Huge claws, long legs, hard armor warriors just pulled up from the cold world of the deep sea. The wind rose, the sea roared, the waves seemed to swallow the ship, but in the heart of the storm, the men clung to the wet and cold deck because the traps below had not been raised yet. No one complained, no one gave up. Even though their bodies were wet and cold, their hands shaking from the bitter wind, they continued to work because each cage was a chance for survival. The cage rose from the raging sea, but ironically, inside was empty, not a single crack, not a single ray of hope. The night sea had refused its reward this time. Only the eyes remained blank. The hands let go for a brief moment, then continued. Because anyone in this profession knows, failure is all too familiar, but giving up is never an option. They continued their familiar work, lowering the cages into the deep sea, hoping this time it would be a big catch. Inside each cage were fresh fish baits tied tightly. The stench of blood and flesh would spread across the seabed. The cage was pulled up. Splashes of water flew everywhere. There were crabs in this catch. Joy exploded as dozens of king crabs were dumped onto the deck. Each one was heavy, its body glowing red like fire in the cold rain. No one said anything, but everyone's I said the same thing. We have won the sea. While most of the world slept under warm blankets, out at sea, this ship was fighting a minute-by-minute battle with the choppy seas. The wind was howling, the waves were standing like walls of water, but they kept going. Through the ship's porthole, only vague human figures could be seen in the steam and wind. Every operation became difficult, but no one backed down, because the cage had to be dropped in the right place, at the right time. The white waves rolled across the deck as if to drown everything. But in that moment of life and death, the trap was still dropped like a declaration of war to the ocean. We are not here to turn back. A moment of distraction, a sudden wave, and disaster struck. In an instant, a man was thrown across the slippery deck. But no one panicked. They rushed in, shielding each other, fighting for safety amid the ocean's fury. The crew were brought into the hold unconscious. No one said a word, just gasps, the sound of the ship's engines and worried eyes. The sea is not for the faint-hearted, and sometimes, it is unforgiving to the brave. After all, they stood up again. The sea was still cold, the waves were still high, but the hands of these men never trembled. The next cage was pulled up in the dark of night as if no storm had ever passed. The crabs were poured onto the deck, but the work did not stop. Each one was carefully measured with a special ruler. Only those that passed were kept. The rest would be released back into the sea, to continue the cycle of wild life. Thank you for following this stormy journey. If you find it interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe and share to support us. See you again on the next voyages.